A lot has changed in the last 2 weeks. Has it made things better or has it made things worse?
I think every day it's probably made things worse, but when I wake up, I try and see what I can make better out of it. And to be honest with you, I think at the moment we're in a bit of a limbo. So we're still trying to get on top of refunds and credit notes for customers, and trying to get the money from suppliers who are obviously overwhelmed by all of this, although a lot of them are getting there now. The trade is really in survival mode, certainly for the next 3 to 6 months. And a lot of that is down to the fact that we've very few places we can go. You have spoken about that on many occasions. But because the kids are going back to school in a few weeks' time, and the schools want children, school-going children, to self-isolate for 2 weeks if they have been on a foreign holiday, really, people can only go this weekend. This is the last chance saloon, flying out this weekend for the 2-week family holiday. So I think, we have to realise that that isn't really going to happen. That part of it is over. And once the children go back to school, then we'll be focusing on adults travelling. And with a bit of luck, on the 10th of August, our green list will increase for us and for our customers. Well, it's relevant for us as travel agents because of the legalities surrounding it. So I would be very reluctant to sell a country that isn't on the green list, because that would have major implications for me as a package organizer if the customers don't have insurance and it can't be insured. So I think it's very difficult. Lots of people are traveling, you're right. Lots of people are booking their own trips, but it's very difficult as a licensed and bonded travel organizer or tour operator or indeed retail travel agent to take on that responsibility. There's an awful lot of exposure for us financially and otherwise, and legally. So,
how relevant is the green list? People are travelling anyway in numbers.
Well, it's relevant for us as travel agents because of the legalities surrounding it. So I would be very reluctant to sell a country that isn't on the green list, because that would have major implications for me as a package organizer if the customers don't have insurance and it can't be insured. So I think it's very difficult. Lots of people are traveling, you're right. Lots of people are booking their own trips, but it's very difficult as a licensed and bonded travel organizer or tour operator or indeed retail travel agent to take on that responsibility. There's an awful lot of exposure for us financially and otherwise, and legally. So 4 countries on the green list that we can really essentially travel to, and that is Cyprus, Malta, Italy and Greece. If our government separated out the islands from mainland Europe, which I believe the Spanish Tourist Board is lobbying for, I think that would make a huge difference for us. I think it would make a huge difference for autumn bookings and bookings as we move forward, because those places are safer to be than here. So they can go to any other part of Spain and they can go to the islands as well. Our office in Dubai is selling a huge amount of staycations, but not only that, for the past week they've been selling an awful lot of Mauritius and selling for the Maldives as well. And in those 2 particular areas, the hotels are being very proactive. They are doing COVID tests for customers before they're about to go back home, etc., getting results within 3 days. And so it's really interesting from my point of view to find out what's going on in the rest of the world, certainly where we're based. And that gives me a lot of hope as well in certain ways.
2020 is a write-off. What should we as an industry be doing now?
I think as an industry, there has to be a complete overhaul of the package travel regulations. That's the first thing that has to happen. I don't know of any other industry that is left hanging out to dry as much as we are. There's very, very few who are exposed the way we are. So what I mean by that is what everybody in the industry knows, that even if a supplier doesn't refund us, we have an obligation to refund the customer in certain circumstances, and that's not sustainable. We cannot sustain that. If the package travel regulations don't change, I would have an awful lot of fears for the industry. Even if a supplier doesn't refund us, we have an obligation to refund the customer in certain circumstances, and that's not sustainable. We cannot sustain that. If the package travel regulations don't change, I would have an awful lot of fears for the industry. I'm not sure is 2020 a write-off yet. I would still be a little bit optimistic on that score. I think summer 2020 is absolutely a write-off. I think the autumn and winter will be interesting. We have an awful lot of people who transfer their summer holiday to Christmas and the autumn, but particularly to places like Lapland and that, where they still want to have the family treat, and it'll be 2 or 3 days as opposed to 2 or 3 weeks. So I don't think it's over. I do think when we bounce back, we will bounce back very, very quickly. We're certainly ready for it. Corporate point of view, if everybody was listening to the WHO last night on the radio, or on TV, should I say, Michael Ryan, isn't it, who was talking about travelling and how important it is to our economies, etc. So I think corporate companies are waiting for a better green list, preferably one that doesn't, well, whether it includes Greenland or not isn't actually relevant to anybody. But once more countries open up for them, and then our corporate clients have all of their ducks in a row in terms of their staff safety, I think we will see a lot more travelling that way as well. What? Ryanair, for instance, very innovative, putting on like that a flight to Santorini. That was such a buzz last week. It gave everybody in the industry a huge lift. A simple thing like that. A lot of customer interest as a result of it. I think Ryanair are very innovative from that point of view. I think that if only they had been kinder, let's say, to customers who had booked pre-March, as opposed to customers who have booked from the 1st of June onwards in terms of change and amendment and so on, that would be better from their point of view. Aer Lingus today have just come out and said in relation to their vouchers, yes, they're valid for 5 years. We knew that anyway. But also by the end of August, they will have a system in place that will allow name changes on the vouchers without fee. I think that's fantastic. And also they said that they will combine vouchers. So, if you've got a family of 4 and there were 4 vouchers, well, the 2 adults could go off to on a long haul flight if they wish. In the beginning, when it was all panicky, nobody knew what they were doing. But an awful lot of the airlines particularly are starting to change their rules now. And I think everybody has to look at that. What changes? It's very different. I think one of our biggest problems at the moment is, so it's hard to instill confidence in consumers, particularly when we see what happened in the UK at the weekend. People already now on their holidays, not knowing if they can get home, when they can get home, and having to quarantine when they come back. I think one of the good things about Ireland is that everybody understands now that home working works very, very well. That's something we've been doing for 15 years. So if I was to go on holidays, I would have no problem working from home for 2 weeks when I come back. You did that yourself recently. I will get my food delivered to my home, etc. So for a lot of people, actually, it will be manageable. I think one of the problems that we have is that we are a very critical nation. I think that an awful lot of Irish people feel judged by their neighbours. An awful lot of people are travelling incognito because there's such a backlash. Very few people sharing on social media that they're going on holiday because there's such a backlash from their neighbours. And I think we're a little judgmental from that point of view. And that's something that other countries don't get or understand. That's quite unique about Ireland, probably because we're so small and in a sense everybody knows everybody else. And maybe we are probably a little bit more politicised as well than they might be in other countries. I'm not really sure if that's the reason, but I kind of think that's wrong that people are judging.
Thank you very much, Cathy Burke of Travel Counsellors.